I'm just shaking. It's such an honor to be able to talk about what happened on Sunday with our Venerable Dharma. I'd never been in a Cambodian community before, never been in a Cambodian temple, and I certainly don't speak Cambodian. So the truth is, I missed a lot of what happened.
Oh, we did too.
So whatever I tell you is just my perception, and if I say anything wrong, Venerable will certainly clear it up afterwards. As I understand it, there are only 4 Bikini monasteries of the Cambodian
Bikuni.
Why did I say bikini?
Yes.
Zucchini, I don't know. But the first time I ever said it, and here it was in front of you. But as I understand it, there's only 4 Bikini monasteries.
We didn't have a problem with that word. We got it.
I wonder if it has a special meaning. Bikuni, we'll call it Cambodian female monastery.
And they call it Bikuni something.
Hey,
Yeah, we
hey,
don't know. What is it? Bikuni. Bikuni is how they pronounce it.
Anyway, that, as I understand it, there's only 4 monasteries of that in the world, and 1 in California. But there are no bhikkhu male monasteries in the world where a bhikkhuni can live. Nowhere in the world. So on Sunday, the word auspicious doesn't even touch it. For the first time in the history of the world, in the history of humanity, in the history of Buddhism, a female monastic of the Khmer Cambodian tradition was invited to become a part of a male monastic. Auspicious doesn't even touch it. It was just phenomenal. To be present was a gift. So we arrived, all of us arrived in various cars around 11 o'clock, and tradition is that you don't eat after 12. So immediately they took us into this kitchen dining area to serve us. And the room was filled with these wonderful Sangha Cambodian women in their long skirts and white blouses, and tables of food in the little tiny dishes. The monastics sat at a table, and I don't think there was an inch of space left that did not have a little bowl with some kind of Cambodian food on it. There were mats on the floor, and they very lovingly, kindly, gently would touch us on the shoulder and invite us to sit on the floor with the food was placed on the floor. So much food, wonderful food. And so we ate, and we had to be finished by 12. And then we were ushered back into the main room. And I want to say, these Cambodian women treated us with such kindness, such grace, loving kindness. I felt like we were part of their family. It wasn't formal. It was very informal. They would touch us. They would, you go there. And of course, it was all in Cambodian. So we're just kind of like fish out of water, but they treated us like they knew us. So in the main hall, there was against one wall, a raised area, and the 2 monks sat there, Abbot Sambo and another monk. And then in front of them, our monastic sat. And then on the other side of the hall, we sat. And in the center was all mats on the floor. And the Cambodian Sangha sat on those mats, no cushions, just sat on the mats. And I want to read for you just briefly. There was a monastery in California where Sada has taught, and she knows them very well, and they know her very well. And they sent a video of congratulations to her and chants. But also, an abbot from a monastery in California sent this letter to Venerable Sada on July 1st of this year. And part of what he said was, the challenges you faced as Khmer Bhikkhuni in this modern society, and especially in the Cambodian community, are very difficult to explain. These challenges are the doors to the Khmer Bhikkhuni and the international Bhikkhuni to help Bhikkhuni, to help plant the seeds for others to follow. You and the others are the path for these seeds to grow, one by one. Your dedication, determination, perseverance, and along with your compassionate heart, led you to where you are today. I am very humbled and honored to congratulate you on your invitation as the first Khmer Bhikkhuni to get invited from the Bhikkhu Khmer Sangha to live on the same ground. This is extraordinary to witness. Therefore, congratulations on your accomplishment to the future of all Bhikkhuni who have endured this path of hardship with much criticism and discrimination. So they proceeded to have a service, but it was very informal. There was nothing formal about it. And Abbot Sambo would talk, dialogue to his Sangha, and then they would respond back. It reminded me of the Baptist call and response, except it wasn't a one-word response. So he would talk, they would talk, and they'd get up, they'd move around, but they were all very happy, just glowing, and I have no idea what they were talking about. And this went on for a while, and then he turned to Sada, who was sitting with her back to him, facing us, and she kind of had to get up a little bit and turn to face him. Now, he had a microphone, and his voice was very loud and clear in this whole room. She did not have a microphone. I don't know if she actually raised up, but it seemed like she raised up. And she responded to him in as loud a voice, firm voice, strong voice. This is our Sada, who just is quiet, never says anything, unless you approach her or she approaches you. She had the firmness and the courage, the confidence, and they went back and forth equally. And in that moment, I felt in my heart that this is a very holy being with great powers. And we are so honored to be in her presence. The Sangha women felt the same way. They approached her, they gave her gifts, and they were so happy to have her there. They understood. And I forgot to mention in that the Venerable at the very beginning of it thanked the monks so much for this great honor. of being asked to do this. And they even invited our whole Sangha to come there and visit. And at one point in his conversation, all Cambodian, we heard the words, friends, not enemies. He had learned 3 words in English. He doesn't speak English. And when you think about America and the war in Cambodia in the past, to hear that from him in English was a very special moment for humanity. So when it was over, we helped take Sada's belongings into the trailer where she is living, a nice, almost brand new, probably new trailer. And the grounds there are so serene, simple, peaceful, beautiful. And we helped her, and as we were leaving, she came up to all the cars to say goodbye to everyone. And when she came up to me, she reached out and we hugged each other. And as we separated, I looked at her and she had the most impish smile on her face. And her eyes were sparkling. And she said, she whispered in my ear, I'm going to be there, Venerable. And in that moment, I know for sure, all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas were standing right there with her, with the same grins on their faces. If I have erred, please forgive me.
So, everybody knows Sukha. Sukha speaks her mind. She speaks it boldly and forcefully. And this is just an example of the kind of true heart and humility that arises as one is advancing in the Dharma. I don't think I've seen her tremble and shake ever. But it truly was an auspicious occasion. Now I have to tell you that Sada called me that night. I said, Sada doesn't call me for like weeks sometimes, to like just talk one-on-one. She just does her thing. But she's already called me tonight, before the first night. And so then we talk. The next day she shows up. And she shows up with her sister and her son, And so so there was yes. Come on, wait for a mic.
Is there any chance that she could stand up so we could see?
Yes, yeah. Can you come and stand right here?
Hello, thank you. Well, I listen Venerable right now. Maybe the heart when Sangha left, and then I have more Dharma to talk with Venerable. That's why I call right away because I'm live here. I know I never call Pannavati or Pannavati call. Sometimes don't pick up a lot of time. That today I try to call, but see, yep, the Venerable we see. No, you talk. No, okay, I have something to talk with Venerable. I say, yeah, Venerable say, and then I talking about my Dhamma, then I have, Venerable say, okay, you can come here on Wednesday and, no, Thursday, no, Tuesday, and stay one night and go back in Wednesday. But I don't understand, but I follow Venerable Pannavati so much because Venerable the high Dhamma, I have to understand a little bit, and then I just come, I then bring my son, I talking with my son, I talking with my sister, both gonna be understand right away, and come, that's all, That's wonderful.
So we're going to open with the 8 offerings today, and more Theravada, because we have Theravada guests, more Theravada opening. Am I too loud? Okay. I'll get louder in a minute, though. Okay. Mhm. You can do something right there. Om Nagang Badang Bube Dube Alage Gande Shabda Satao Hang Soha Om Nagang Badang Bube Dube Alage Levade Shabda Sati Sao Hang Soha.
Namo Tassa
Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhasa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhasa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhasa Buddham Saranam Gacchami Dhammam Saranam Gacchami Sangham Saranam Gacchami Dutiyampi Saranam Gacchami Dutiyampi Dhammam Saranam Gacchami Dutiyampi Sangham Saranam Gacchami Tatiyampi Buddham Saranam Gacchami Tatiyampi Dhammam Saranam Gacchami Tatiyampi Sangham Saranam Gacchami.
Incense burning, all space is filled with the fragrance. All Buddhas smell it from afar. Auspicious clouds gather everywhere. With utmost sincerity, all Buddhas appear.
We pay homage and offer clouds of incense to the Bodhisattvas and the Mahasattvas. We pay homage and we offer clouds of incense to the Bodhisattvas and the Mahasattvas. We pay homage, we offer clouds of incense to the Bodhisattvas and the Mahasattvas. So Bhante gave a Dharma talk in Cambodian, and I'm not sure how much of it we understood, but there is a way of understanding what is said that comes in through hearing, through the sense gates, and we always talk about that information is partial, it's false, it's subjective. We take it in according to how we are, not necessarily how not necessarily the impartial nature of something, but from our own perspective for our own usage. And that's how we communicate with each other. And we can see how faulty it is. That's his whole teaching about the false nature of the information that comes in through the sense gates, what we and what we carry away based on what we see, hear, taste, touch, smell, or think. And that's how we normally conduct our life, make our decisions, how we see and understand the world, and this is called the worldly view. And then there is a different kind of view, a supramundane view that arises on the basis of prajna awakening in you. So prajna awakening in you could be, is synonymous with the emergence or the coming through of the Dharmakaya, which is your original Buddha nature that has been obscured since beginningless time. And so, so if you get these different understandings for what Dharmakaya is and what prajna is and what awakening is, when you overlay them one by one, maybe understanding it from this side for a while until you supersede that understanding and are open to having a greater truth be shared or revealed. You just work with it at that level or from that side or from that view or from that perspective. But then another aspect of it is dropped in. And so now it doesn't necessarily mean that you abandon this and take up that, but this is seen within the greater light of this and this. And so one's understanding expands, one's of the true reality of things grows. And that just keeps happening and keeps happening and keeps happening. And after a while, you will have a completely different view of those first truths that you've learned, because other aspects of truth have been added to it that broadens your understanding, that better corrects. It's like we can only have so much at a time. We can only tolerate so much at a time. But if it's good, if it's really good, then we even want to grasp around that. And the minute we grasp around any particular Dharma as being absolutely this, we have lost the Dharma. And so it's one reason why after all of these years and these thousands of years for this particular Dharmic epoch where Shakyamuni Buddha came to ignite and point us back towards the truth. The reason is because as soon as he gives us something, we codify it, we lock it down. It can mean only this, and then we brand it. We brand it with our style of robes. We brand it, which is why I mix mine all up. We brand it with our particular jargon, our particular language, our particular words, and so it can only mean this, and then it means that we have the highest truth, like what our sect says. And before we know it, the Dharma is kaput. When I say kaput, it doesn't mean that we don't still mouth the words, but they have lost their power. They've lost their power. They've lost the ability when we activate and use them with this mind body to transform things. And so this whole study on prajna is about us waking up to what it really means to have a non-differentiating mind, that's a boundless mind. And that's why he starts with generosity and the Buddha ends with generosity, because it's actually the key. It's the key to everything else. So sometimes you can have a key and the key can fit the lock, but if the key is rusty or the lock is rusty, even though, it's been cut perfectly because of that that rust, it won't operate. It won't operate. So what a Buddha does, whether he's Shakyamuni Buddha, with the world honored one, understanding where we are, what karmic condition we are in, and it's to start with that and to begin then to untie the knots. So he says, don't try to go all the way to the beginning, in the beginning. Forget about the beginning. Start with right now, a minute before now, an hour before now, a day before now, a week before now, a year before now, 10 years before now, this lifetime, previous lifetime. Start right here and begin. It's sort of like if you have a strip of Velcro, you can't like just, the whole Velcro is untangled. You have to like catch a little corner and you have to like peel it back, peel it back, peel it back. And then you can separate the two strips of Velcro. And so, so life is very much like that. And we should know how to apply the Dharma to our everyday life, and how to apply the Dharma, and how we understand the role of cultivation, because that's just a word. You understand? And when we first get on the word, we're on the word. Cultivate, 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 you know, and we come up with all our definitions of what cultivation is. And we may start with one word, but then when you go a little bit further, like you realize, oh, I can't start right there. What came before that? I have to step back a little bit. No, it's like if you're going to run a marathon, you crouch down, you get set for a running start so that you can take off, right? You don't like just stand there and start running. You get into a posture, a position that's going to give you like a pow, it's like a slingshot. It's going to give you some power to move forward, some impetus from standing still to getting into motion. And so the Dharma is like that. And the teachers of the Dharma teach that way. So they start with one aspect of it. And generally birds of a feather flock together. That doesn't mean that they stay at the same pace the whole time, but they may flock together. It's the curiosity about that particular spiritual tradition. Like those people seem so calm, except me. Those people seem so calm and relaxed, a little folding of the hands, you know, and I'm like this in my life, and so I need a little bit of that. So I'll go check them out and see what they're about. Another group may come together because we have, you know, our life is just so horrible, so horrible. And those people seem to handle the daily vicissitudes of life, you know, and they seem to have a happiness about them. You know, they can have a lot, they can have a little, you know, and yet either way, there's a happiness about them. I would like to have that kind of happiness. So some come for that. Some come out of sheer desperation. Some just want to hear the latest teaching, something they haven't heard. So people come for lots of different reasons. You know, but the magnificence of the Dharma is that no matter what reason, there is an aspect and an approach to the Dharma that begins to satisfy whatever that longing is in you. And so when the longing starts to be satisfied in you over your unhappiness, then you think that's everybody's unhappiness and everybody's longing. And so we try to put our Dharma on others. And in that process, we cut them off from the Dharma having its effective power to go right to the heart of the matter in their individual lives. And so when we have advanced some, as we are in here, we start to realize it's about, there is a shared Dharma and there is unshared Dharma. And the shared Dharma would be the rudimentary things that we need to know to just not create problems, you know, for ourselves. But the unshared Dharma is the insights that come up that help us to fix our own problems. And so on one hand, we have to allow space for people to be able to fix their own problems. On the other hand, we have to apply the Dharma and keep looking at it in a way that helps us to fix our own problems. And after a while, when there starts to not be that many problems, then we start trying to work on other people, you know. So it's a natural way that we move when we start getting more content, happier, more at ease, you know, then we have a natural inclination to want to help others to do that. But we have to be careful not to go premature with it. Going premature with it cuts us off from perfecting our own. There was someone who sent me a text, and she'd been talking to me, and you know, and she says, "Well, I just want to help this other person that you're talking about." I said, yeah, but the thing is that you're not able to help them right now because there's a codependency that you all have. And every time you get almost good, you know, and you start feeling better within yourself, now you're going to jump over and try to help him. But you haven't finished your work, and what happens, his dysfunction is greater than your level of overcoming in that area. And so before you can help him, you have fallen under his foot because his dysfunction has now recaptured you and sunk you back into yours, you know. And so that's what, so he says, stay, linger a little longer. Once the joy comes, because there's something that comes after joy in the Dharma. What I found in Christian practice was there was a fullness of joy. And I thought, this is the highest that you can get, to experience this fullness of joy. But the Dharma teaches me that something on the other side of that, even something on the other side of that fullness of joy, where one comes into a space of equanimity that is unfractured, that's not high sometimes and low sometimes, that is, I say, current. And it has a double entendre for me. Current meaning that is present, fresh, here, right now, but current also in the sense that it is imparting something electric that keeps an aliveness and a strength and a capacity for accomplishment, so that you don't lose ground. So this helps us. This is like drawing a map and being able to find yourself on the map. So the Dharma is like that. It's like this map. It helps you to know where you are. So sometimes I think I'm here, you know, in my journey. But then when I go and look at the Dharma map, I'm like, oh, I'm not right there. I'm right there. You know, I'm over here. I thought I was on the East Coast, but I'm over on this side. You know, so and then I chart my journey from where I am to where I want to be, what I want to understand, what I want to unpack. And then he gives us the steps to go from here to here. So if we're all trying to get here, not to do this, let's say we're all trying to get here and I'm here, I have to go west. But if you're here, you have to go east. And if you're up there, you have to go south. And if you're down here, you have to go north. So we're all coming towards that perfect point of clarity and wisdom, but we're all coming from our separate directions. And it is our individual journey. And that's where the unshared Dharma comes in. So I'd like to pick up a little bit from last week because I want to make sure we got the right point. When we start learning, there is what they call the regular training, and then there's called the higher training. Now, actually, Bhante Sambho, he gave a teaching. That's what that conversation was about. And we didn't know the full context of the teaching. So I surmised a context, you know, for that teaching, because he only said that I could understand basically no longer enemies, but friends. And that was the context. But he was teaching a different Dharma, speaking of we are all friends because we have one common enemy, and that is death. And so we should all gather and be in one accord at all times. Now, that was somebody mentioned later that he said something about, regardless of what color you are, And when one speaks, one can only surmise what that means to them, not necessarily what it means to another person. Do you understand what I mean? Okay. And so that, if I had heard it, no, he's speaking of the condition of the human condition, but he was speaking from a place of comfort for him. But I got it in a different space, which is a space that is not that comfortable for him yet, but he's entering into the comfort. He said that he still gets a lot of flack from other monks because of his, decision that it is good to have bhikkhunis. And I heard that part, and I heard friends, not enemies. And I remember when we first came, and some of my sisters first went to the monastery, Bhante wouldn't even open the door, wouldn't even let them come in, didn't want that. It wasn't that he personally didn't want it. It was that this is the tradition of the elders. The tradition of the elders is not necessarily the perfection of the teaching of the Buddha, because the Buddha didn't belong to exoteric Buddhism or esoteric Buddhism. The Buddha, it was pure Buddhism. But these traditions that emerged over the 2,500 years emerged according to the propensities of the people who came to hear the Dharma, and in a line with their cultural conditioning, and really in a desire to uphold the magnificence of the Dharma. And if you have been taught that you are superior as female and that male, and that women are inferior, women are not capable of becoming a Buddha, and that's what the tradition holds. But the Buddha didn't say that. The Buddha said that women are equally, that there's no difference in male and female around spiritual things. So a tradition has emerged for sure, but that tradition is not 100% right. It is just the amount of change that people could accommodate at that particular time. And if there was the forcing of so much change, the whole thing could fall apart. So the change has to be incremental to turn around. Like if you're turning a ship in another direction, it has to be, incremental. It has to be bit by bit, so that it doesn't cause the whole ship to like tip over and everything to break. And so that's why the perfection of patience is the greatest perfection, because it takes a long time to shift and elevate the consciousness of human beings who, since the beginning of samsara, have been locked away from, their highest wisdom, their highest prajna. So to have the patience to endure, hopefully, not angrily, not enduring angrily, because nothing, one cancels out the other. So you can't go any further. And so as he was talking about this, well, I don't have an issue around color. The purpose of the gathering wasn't around that. It wasn't even around humankind. Before we can talk about the lofty things about humankind, we have to be humane. We have to actually put into practice those things that we speak in nebulous terms about. We have to, when the specific things come in front of us, we have to reconcile. We have to reconcile with that. And so if it was the Buddha's great joy to rub out the difference between male and female around spiritual attainment, then we should purposefully, accommodate that and look forward to it and embrace it. But some, it has taken 10 years, 20 years, and some still say no. And so what do you do in circumstances like that? Sometimes that generation of thinking has, time just has to go by. And so sometimes that generation dies off and there's a new generation who has a more egalitarian understanding. And so that's why we don't have to get into it in a human way, but as we take up the sublime qualities and minds of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, that non-differentiating mind, those thoughts that we had fall away, and we don't even think about that anymore. Just because you call me macaroni doesn't mean I'm macaroni, So no need to worry about what someone calls you or what someone thinks about you. Once you have your own great aspiration and once you're clear on what the Dharma says, then one can just rest in that, regardless of what is said on the outside. So last week when we were talking about one of Buddha Master's disciples, and we didn't quite finish that story. And I want you to be finished. And this was about Zhang Hen. Zhang Hen was he didn't have a lot of teaching. When we don't have a lot, we learn little things about being charitable, being gracious, having humility. But when we start learning things, then the self starts to puff up. And there comes a little arrogance, like I know, and we lose some of that simplicity, that simpleness of view. We lose some of that that humility. We start thinking, I know something, and then we start to look down on those who maybe haven't learned that particular thing, and like we're superior to them because we know this, and they don't know it. And so, and it's an ordinary human. What's the opposite of quality? Unquality. I like to use the disquality.
Deficiency.
I like to keep words the same, so I'm going to call it unquality. I like to keep the words the same, so you don't have to try to think of some other category. Whatever represents quality to you, the opposite of that, and so we start to think of ourselves as having a certain quality based on what we know about the Dharma, and discounting their capacity and capability because maybe they don't have the words or maybe they don't know this particular teaching. But I mean, there's 84,000. It's not that you need to know all 84,000. You need to know the one that's going to take you to Buddhahood. That's the one you need to know. You don't need all 84,000. And sometimes when we start adding too many, we start losing the whole gist of the journey, and we get caught up and we're into a head thing. And so it requires us continually going back to the beginning and continually seeing if we are learned, seeing the danger in more information than you need. And it's like, I want to cross the street. All I need to know basically is that green means go, and the cars that's going in the opposite direction of me, that they see that I'm in an intersection and they see that their light is red. So it's sort of like those three things I'm looking for. I don't need to know how traffic signals work. I don't need to know how they're coordinated. I don't need to know, I mean, if I have some information about that, that's good. But is it absolutely necessary? No. All that's necessary is that what's at this intersection and me crossing it safely. That much information I need to know. The rest is all surplus. And it can be useful somewhere, sometime. But if I'm trying to put all of that in a knapsack and carry it around with me all the time so that I'm constantly, boom, and that's for you, boom, and that's for you, it is a misapplication of the Dharma. And so we get caught up in our learning. But this particular story, because we're always encouraged to develop, in that way, to use the prajna wisdom to examine our life, to clearly see how our life is, apart from false appearances, to contemplate, and to put it, is this in line with my vow? Is this in line with the precepts I take up? Is this in line with just basic human kindness? Is this in line with considering the other equal to me? Is this putting others even before myself when their conditions are more dire than mine? These are all the ways that we have to examine ourselves throughout this is a never-ending job, because if you do it, you will see, more and more and more deeply the additional levels of selfishness that we have when we don't even think we have it. We don't even realize that we are. And so that's where that passing through barriers practice becomes very, very useful. And it is taking a thing, and once one sees the deficiency in their behavior or in their thoughts about a certain thing, and agreeing with oneself to abandon it, and giving oneself a certain period of time to abandon it. Of course, if we don't abandon it in the time that we do, then luckily Vajrasattva is there, who has overcome all of these deficiencies and is therefore able to help remind us. Remember, you said you weren't going to do that. And there is a penalty, there's a price to pay for that. But because I have so much merit, I will step in and I'll help you a little bit with that. So in the beginning, we're taught you have to take care of your own problems. You have to, fix the things in your life. Your karma is yours alone, and nobody else can do anything about that, can help you with that. That's in the common teaching. But the uncommon teaching of the higher teachings is that we also have helps. But it's not the time to know that we have helps in the beginning of our journey, because it's like every time something goes wrong, it's like, help me, Jesus. Every time something goes wrong, we're like putting it on, can you bear this? Can you carry this burden for me? No, first it's like, ain't nobody but you. Nobody's home but you. You have to do it. And if you have, whatever you do, you have to be willing to pay the price. Now, you can be unwilling to pay the price, but if you do it, there is a price to be paid, and it's going to be yours to bear. And so that makes us more circumspect in what we will do and what we won't do. Helps us to get it clear. But after we are doing that with all of our might, with all of our effort, and we still need a little bit of encouragement, we talk to ordinary human beings for encouragement. We lean on ordinary human beings for support. when we're trying to accomplish something and we don't have the full strength. How much more the foe destroyers and the great overcomers throughout all time? How much more should we and can we rely upon the truth of their completed work and capturing in their having abandoned or laid down their false body of the four elements, freed from the false body of the four elements, delivered from samsara and abiding in the Pure Lands now, free of samsara. How much more can we depend on them for some aid, for some support? And so that's like where the Dharmapalas come in. Now the Dharmapalas sustain and they protect the Dharma. So I can't call on a Dharmapala to come to my aid and my defense when I'm doing something, because they sustain and protect the Dharma. So the only way I'm going to get help from them is that I have to be full of the Dharma. And then they protect the Dharma wherever it is. If it's in me, if it's in you, then they are protecting that Dharma. And that's why we should, rely upon the Dharma, but it's the Dharma in us. It's the only Dharma that we can rely upon. We can't live any kind of way, do any kind of thing, and then grab a book and read something in there about the Dharma and what the Dharma says. No, that Dharma has to be a part of us. We have to be that living Dharma. And so we don't have anything to prove to anybody except to ourselves. And that's why we finally realized that we can be absolutely honest with ourselves about who we are, what we are, where we are, what we do, how we do it. And we can make the great aspiration that says, basically, if I'm doing anything that is out of line with the Dharma, I want to know. And when you ask the question, or when you make the statement, you want to know, the universe comes to, the universe is totally at your disposal to let you know the truth. It might come through your brother, through your son, through your mother, through a friend. It might come through hearing a story, a circumstance in somebody else's life. You might stumble across it in reading Dharma books and reading non-Dharma books. You might have been able to make a correlation between something that you learned when you were in a different spiritual tradition, or something that you heard that you poo-pooed when you heard it, but suddenly today it's resonating with you. It's making sense to you today. But why? Because you asked the question. If there's anything, I used to sing a song all the time, but if there was anything unclean, I want you to bring it to my attention and help me to move it out of my way. And so after so much time of developing this kind of deep inner conviction and devotion, we start to have helps basically from every place good in the universe, to let us know. And you can do something about it right now, Pannavati, if you want. If you don't want, I've learned that I won't make those rash affirmations that I made in the past. I'm absolutely not going to do this again. I will make I will indicate that I would like to abandon that. I can see how it's harmful. I can see it may not even be harmful. It can just be a time waster. It's something that just be a time waster. A couple of months ago, I shared with you, and I share these to give you an example of how to think and examine things in your own life. not to talk about me, but that keeps me from telling the story on somebody else I know and revealing the secret. You know what I mean? So that's why I do it, because I have done that in the past, and I'm trying to work on just keeping it right here, so nobody's offended or feels outed. But I don't mind being outed. And so he was dealing with me about how compassionate was I, because if I could give an epitaph for me, what I think about me, I would say that I'm compassionate. And that's a fact. I am. But how compassionate am I? That compassionate compared to who? Compared to you? That's not the standard. Compared to, how people normally think about things and handle in society, that's not the standard. But when I compare to the compassion of the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas, then instead of me thinking I'm here and this is perfection, I'm down there. And so I'm always looking in that way now, since he just challenged me on it, a few months ago. And in looking, I realized I don't think I'm that compassionate. It's just because I've rearranged the structure of my life. I've moved some things out of my life. So certain hardships and troubles, I have other hardships and troubles, but certain hardships and troubles no longer present in my world, and certain desires the flames have been put out. So I don't have any draw towards certain things or certain behaviors or certain ways of thinking. So when someone tells me their story, it's not that I'm remaining equanimous. It's like I'm completely out of touch. I'm just out of touch, because that's not touching my life, and hasn't for 5 years or 10 years or 15 years or 20 years. So I can look upon it without any kind of emotion. I can be with it and be in a perfect place of peace. I can hold you up, but what he was helping me see is that if I don't feel it, then that can't qualify as being detached from it. You can't be detached from something that you're not even aware of, that you don't actually feel, that you not experiences. To say I can tolerate heat, you gotta feel what? Heat. You gotta feel heat. And I'm like, well, I'm not feeling the heat. That's why I can hold you up and support you in that. And so I had to change some things. I had to go back and get in touch with how some things feel. I had to review some of my history that has been, reconciled now. It's like that you had that little game, and you hit that whack-a-mole. You hit that, but something pops up here. Yeah. Then you hit that and something pops up right there. So I have some things they're down now. They're just not popping. They're not popping up. So when I hear about it, I'm not moved by it. I can hold the space for you, because that's not bothered me in the least, And but he was saying, no, you still have to feel it and yet be unattached to it, yet be equanimous, yet, And so I realized I had to wake up some dormant things. Okay, so now waking up some dormant things, I went to see a therapist, and she was working on me, and she said, like your bottom 3 chakras are closed. I said, thank goodness, finally, let them stay closed. Some of that deals, some of it deals with sexuality and stuff like that. Just the basic energy of this particular human plane is desire for food and desire for sex. I mean, that's it. That's where the energy is pooling around, and around the body, mind in these ways. And so,
The food would go.
yeah, I'm gonna work on that one next. And so I was like, and then the in the third chakra, that's your sense of security, basic safety. I mean, that's what human beings, they are concerned about their safety in all kinds of ways, you know. And I'm not that concerned about that. I'm not concerned about safety around finance, not concerned about safety around where I'll live or what I'll have. I'm not concerned about safety, like I don't fear any man. I'm not concerned about going out at night. I'm not concerned, nothing. Only thing I might have a little bit of fear of dog, because I've been attacked by a dog. I haven't gotten over that completely. But so dogs, I feel a little apprehension, but otherwise I don't, And so I'm thinking that I'm in a good space. They've closed up more room at the top for opening the heart, opening the mind, getting clear awareness, and being able to go in and out the body, exit at at your leisure, at any time, coming and going, practicing coming and going, you know. And I went through a certain state. I had a state practice, state initiation of that very practice. And that's been over 20 years ago, before I came to the Dharma, and we practice coming and going. The consciousness leaving the body. So right now I'm experiencing it, but I'm not practicing coming and going. I'm just sitting here and like I'm going, and then it comes back, and so I'm trying to understand this new experience of coming and going. And I'm like, I need more energy up at the top. I don't need to reawaken that. And then Buddha Master comes along and says, yes, you do. You need to have, the whole thing needs to be open. And I'm like, okay. So I started reading novels, because I don't want to have to get any firsthand experience about anything, So I started reading novels, and these are just ordinary novels about gangsters, novels about, I'm just looking at mindsets and how minds think, how minds work. So I can really understand people and really be there with them, not here looking down on them saying, I understand you. But I mean, really from eye contact level, understanding what is happening in their life and and I got a real eye-opening. Times have changed since I sort of stepped out of, the world in that way. And they have really accelerated. It's like my father said to me one day, he said, baby, I've gone from horse and buggy, because he was born in 1899, I've gone from horse and buggy to man on the moon. He said, too much in one lifetime. He said, I'm ready to go. And so, like, when I'm starting hearing things expressed and reading about situations, and I'm like, wow, this is all new to me. And the things, the thoughts that's in children's minds, and the ways that adolescents behave and interact in the world that I haven't caught up with yet, and I'm almost dead. And so I realized that I was living like sort of in a not real place. You understand what I mean? So they're not going to be able to be of much. I'm not going to be able to transfer any of my wisdom and the strength to them, because I'm not connected in that way. And so I've been doing that. And now it's like, okay, that's enough. I just wanted to give you the idea, so because now I think I've read, it's in my phone, I think I've read like 50 novels, like in the last 2 months. Sometimes I read all night long, and I get the whole gist of the story. And And at first I was watching a little television, the kids' dramas, but then I started liking TV. So I was cut with the TV. I went to reading the novels. And now I'm like in them so that I will read 8-10 hours straight, you know. And it's like, you're always getting the wrong idea. Okay, cut off with the novels now. Now shine the light of Prajna on all those things that's in your head, because these are real life scenarios, things really happening to people, really horrible things happening to people in their life, or the excruciating pain of rejection. I'm not rejected because I'm not looking for nothing. But let's say I was looking for something. I can remember the pain of rejection. It took me back to my days when I was taken advantage of, you know. And all of those things that I had buried came back, and I had to look at them and feel them, and yet not be moved or overtaken by them. And that was my test of whether I could do it for me. I was able to easily do it for me, but I didn't have quite as much ability when it came to, I could understand people's predicament, but not exactly feel their predicament, you know? And I only based the resolution of their predicament upon what I thought they needed or what I wanted to give them. Never do I recall seeing it from their own side, but only from my side, albeit compassionate, but still from my side. I hope you understand what I'm saying, that there's a deeper level that we have to penetrate, where we become the other person, that there is no separation between us and another. And that's what will give you the courage, the strength, and the support of the holy beings to take up and to do. And this is on a whole different level than show and tell. It's on a whole different level than what you can see from the outside. Because when we talk about a state initiation, we're talking about entering into a certain state, a certain level of accomplishment, not a level of knowledge, but a certain level of accomplishment. And there's no faking that. So in this story, now I'm going to be finished on time. In this story, he talked about this person. And he said, there was no aspect about him which people could speak unfavorably. He said, now, I'm telling you, that is true cultivation. He had good relations with people of all levels. He got along with every class of person. All of his practices are perfect. And he leads a life of peaceful, calm, and carefree. Said now, in a very ordinary way, how his power shows up, his accomplishment, was that he was walking with someone, a companion, and they saw a vicious dog that looked like a Tibetan mastiff dash out. He was not frightened in the least. He took a glance at the dog and said, he took a glance at the dog and he said to his companion, we should keep walking. If it wants to bite, let it bite. Let it bite whichever foot it wants to bite. This is all a matter of cause and effect. And it says, however, the vicious dog charged at him from behind. But when the dog was only 2 feet away and about to pounce on him, he did not even turn and look at the dog. Then all that could be heard was the sound of a bark of the dog with its tail between its legs. It was so scared that it turned around and ran away. He did not harm the dog at all. He didn't chant any mantras. I do not lie to you, disciples. But because of the level of his harmlessness and his goodness, all the holy beings protected him. So as the dog approached to bite, he heard, and the dog couldn't even touch him. That's not him protecting himself, I'm saying to you, but because of his conduct being protected by the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas in the 10 directions. So he's saying that in the past, we've talked about being a good person, you know, and doing good deeds, you know, is important. And he's saying, I'm not saying that Buddha Dharma entails nothing but doing good deeds, because this is all he did. And yet he was protected. Doing good deeds lead to the good fortune of ascending to a heavenly realm, right? And as I told you in the past, the charitable giving by Li Jiangchen was unconditional. He developed a state of conduct based on kind-heartedness. So even if one doesn't know 83,000 of the 84,000 dharmas, you know, that one can develop a state of conduct based on kind-heartedness. And only when the prerequisite of this type of state of conduct is met, are you able to truly learn Buddha Dharma. So I tell you that right now, I am just beginning to truly learn Buddha Dharma. Entering a state of conduct, not just knowing about states, but actually entering into the state that has the power and capacity to change the external, that has the power and the capacity that when the words are spoken, they break yokes in people's lives. And the words don't have to be highfalutin. They can be simple words. Like, just try a little harder. It'll be all right. But speaking them from that state unleashes a certain power to subdue karmic forces, to withhold karmic forces, to block karmic forces, to cause a shift in direction so that one moves away from the storm that they don't even see coming yet and moves towards a high ground where there will be safety. And he says that when the prerequisite of this type of state, based on kindness of conduct, is met, one will be truly able to learn true Buddha Dharma. And says only then will masters with discerning eyes transmit that Dharma to them. So it says, therefore, do not even think of learning Dharma or realizing the fruits if you rely on the ideas of leaving things to chance. I tell you, that would be impossible. If you meet an eminent monk or a greatly virtuous one, that means lay person who is able to practice an inner tantric observation of you, you will not be able to escape from the truth. What does that mean? You want me to read it again?
Yeah.
Mhm. Um, if you meet an eminent monk or greatly virtuous one who's able to practice an inner tantric observation of you, you will not be able to escape from the truth.
You speak to me from that state that you were talking about. I can't, I will have to accept it. It'll hit me.
Okay. Mm,
It's just a thought.
no, good thought. Anybody else?
Repeat it, if you don't mind, please,
Mhm.
one more time.
If you meet an eminent monk or a greatly virtuous one who's able to practice an inner tantric observation of you, you will not be able to escape from the truth.
Deception is a deception. So from a state that
Without
is,
it, yeah.
deception is a deception from somebody who can see truth or is in a high unsurpassable state. There is no way to hide. You have to fully abide and be virtuous enough to, to actually have that initiation. So you have to, your conduct has to be.
Okay, we're doing good. I think we're kind of overthinking. Anybody else? Yeah.
I think first it's the belief in the person that is showing that to one, like a belief and respect for that kind of ability. I think first, and then once one has that belief and respect for a person, then one is open to the clarity of receiving that particular guidance or showing to oneself
Mhm.
what is there to see. But I think that first it requires, and maybe not, maybe they just show up and it happens. But for me, it seems like there needs to be an appreciation for a respect and of that particular person.
I think I'm sorry. I think also, just in plain words, you're also in a state where you allow yourself to be seen. You're open enough to be seen. There's a receptivity field that emanates from just wanting to be seen.
Okay, I think these are all good, but we're at step, but yes.
I can relate to the type of situation where I'm sort of putting on a face or an airs, and it's clear to me the other person has seen through it. And inside, I know that, and it bothers me, but I know that they've seen it, and that I can't hide what I was trying to hide.
Mhm. That's getting closer to it, yes. I want to this to be like real simple.
It's cause and effect. They're initiating a cause and the effect comes with the cause. So like, if your causes meet the cause that he's bringing, then there's no escape. The effect is now already.
Okay, so I can see how we've
Unraveled it.
yeah, and this is a basic principle that he's sharing right now, that it's like a little seed, and if it goes in there, it will really help you. Whose hand did I see? Yeah.
Is it the case where there's no giver and no receiver?
No, not in this particular discussion. Okay, I'm gonna tell you what it is so you can see how really simple it is and how we've overthought. It says, just keeping in mind the topic, right? It says, do not even think of learning Dharma or realizing the fruits. If you rely on the idea of leaving things to chance, I tell you, it would be impossible. If you meet an eminent monk or greatly virtuous one who's able to practice an inner tantric observation of you, that means having the capacity, read your mind to know what's happening, or some of these abilities that lay you bare before them, you will not be able to escape from the truth. So he's establishing a principle that you should know, and that's a principle, that's a good thing. You know, it can be seen in two ways. Don't think you can fool people who are accomplished. To do that is to spit on the notion of accomplishment. Like you might not even like the person. But I'm telling you that it doesn't matter whether you like them or not. There is a certain capacity that they have. They will be able to see what's what, regardless of what face you put on in front of them. On the other side of that, so that's the caution, that's the warning. But on the other side of that, that's the good favor, and that's the great benefit. Because for a person to have those capacities, they have to be able to enter into a true state to be able to operate them, and it allows their accomplishment to be of a benefit to you. You know, so it's like, don't try to fool someone who has those capacities, because you can't fool them. But thank goodness, you know, thank goodness that you can't, because then you can get what you need from them, like them or not, to change your condition, you know. And so he's letting you know about the principle of inner tantric observation and how one can see or wrap the mind. Yes.
So then, it seems that a person needs to be aware of where that's coming from, because it could be coming from someone that does not have that ability and is giving us information that we believe it might be true about ourselves and it's not.
Mhm. Yeah, but just stay with that principle. Don't water the whole yard. Just stay with the principle of a teacher's who has the capacity to know what you're thinking, or has the capacity to see what you do, the supernatural capacity, and know that that is a firmly established dharmic principle is what I'm saying. And if you know that, it will help you. It will help you. So he says, at this point, some of you disciples may be, inner tantric observation of you. You will not be able to escape this, to escape from the truth, or means you'll not be able to hide the truth from him. The power of the Buddha Dharma will be invoked immediately, evoking a response from Dharma protecting bodhisattvas in 3 continents of the universe. And sometimes Buddha Master will say, well, that's okay, you can lie to me, you know. He said, but the Dharma protectors, you gotta watch out for those guys, though, you know. He said, because I love you, he said, but they love the Dharma. You have to watch out for those guys. It says their investigation would find out right away, you know, whether you or not you qualify. It said you'll have to use your conduct, your morality, and your character in exchange for learning the Dharma. There's no dissembling and there's no shortcut that will work. And so at this point, some of you disciples may be thinking, since that's the case, I'll definitely not be able to learn the Dharma, and I might as well just give up. That kind of thinking is even more erroneous. If you have that type of mindset, you definitely will descend. You'll be very miserable. Besides being unable to attain liberation, even your secular life in this current lifetime will be pitiful. Just how pitiful it will be, it is hard to know. That's why you need to know Dharmic principles to keep from devolving into a pitiful situation in your life, and to know that you can come out of that pitiful situation is even more important to know, that no matter, that's why I don't mind when I look and see myself in a pitiful condition. Like, this is ridiculous that I'm in this pitiful condition. What Dharma am I missing? What Dharma do I already know that I'm not, activating in my life? Because there's my answer. There's my way of escape, So you should rouse your spirit. Why should you rouse your spirit? You should do so to establish your own moral character. Let's put aside Buddha Dharma. At the very least, you should be a good person. You must first have this state of mind before you can talk about loving others. Just in terms of 4 limitless states of mind, if you yourself do not even know about loving your own family, it'll be even more impossible for you to love the families of other people. If you do not even know about loving the families of other people, how could you talk about loving the people of this world? From this perspective, it's sequence. We must go from small to large, from those close to us to those distant from us, fostering a very magnificent, noble, and unselfish state. The fruit that is free of self can only be established on the state of unselfishness. One cannot even sever selfishness. If one cannot even sever selfishness, one is all the more incapable of severing attachment to self. This Buddha Dharma that I impart to you today warrants that you listen well and pay careful attention. I am making an effort in this aspect. I and you disciples will make this effort together, hand in hand. However, I believe that we will bring forth an atmosphere of happiness and prosperity for all. And I think that's where I want to end. He reminds us to pay attention to the aspect of continual practice. We practice something for a while and then we start. I exercise a little bit, then I stop. I go on a health regimen, then I stop. I have a cabinet full of pills that I have bought off the internet, haven't even opened, and get a discount if you buy 3. And wait, you get a bigger discount if you buy 6. So I buy 6 bottles. And I haven't even cracked the seal of the first bottle, And he says that this is what we do. We get gung-ho when we hear one little thing that touches us and we start working on that intensely and then we put it aside. Don't work on it so intensely. Just see it and just gradually touch it so that it leaves space to put some of our energy at something else that will complement that, and something else that will complement that, and something else that will complement that. And then we'll find that it becomes easy. It's not a hard thing at all. But when we're pressing too hard, trying to attain some little part, that little part we've carved out that we have our eye on, then we end up losing it all. And so it's good to learn Dharma, but it's even more to perfect our kindness one to another, starting with our family and moving outward. And I'm going to close with this. A good friend of mine was telling me about something that happened, and people had done her bad. And he says, I know it. I accept it. I'm not going to retaliate in any kind of way. um, I, I just leave it. And she said, but I do have resentment about it. And she said, because they haven't changed, I don't see any point in letting that resentment go. I don't see any point in doing anything different. Uh, and I thought that was the worst thing. You know, I mean, she's a teacher, and I thought, boy, to have that's the wrong view. But I have a sister that I haven't spoken to in 20 years. And the family has been trying to reconcile us for 20 years. But I'm like, I'm good. You know, I'm good. I mean, there's no need. If that's how she feels, it's good for her to stay there, and I stay here. I mean, what are we gonna do? Kissy face? If what she said to me was how she feels? So I didn't argue with her. I didn't fight with her. I simply said it wasn't like that. But for her to think that of me, I said, this is not family. I'm done. You know, and I left it 20 years ago. And so her husband's been trying to do a family reunion. Now, I don't want to do family reunion with those that I really, really do like. But, you know, I don't. You know, I don't mind talking to you for a few minutes. But, you know, that's as far as I really, really want to go because we don't have things in common, you know. And so we had the same mother, you know, and we don't. So after maybe an hour of being with them, we've run out of things, you know, and so it's hard for me to even think about. I mean, like you're my family, you know, and it's been coming up for me because of what Buddha Master told me to go back and look at and get in and really truly compassionately connect with the suffering of others. And so I've been trying to do that from here with her, you know, me just really not thinking about what she said to me, but thinking about what would make her say those things. You know, what was in her mind? What was she feeling and experiencing that made her think I could be like what she said I was? And where I felt a disappointment in her, I'm sensing her disappointment over something the way she thought it went down. And it didn't go down that way. But the last time we talked about it 20 years ago, it was too fresh for anybody to listen to anybody. They had their idea of what happened, you know. And I might have to fix that. And if I do, I'll tell you. Yeah. I don't have to go on a family thingy though to fix it. I could just, you know, me and her, I can just call her, you know, and fix it. And if she wants to hear, you know, but when I tried to explain, she didn't want to hear, so I just left it. But I think that's a knot that I would have to take care of, you know, that's what I'm saying. And in me, I still feel at this moment a little resistance because I'm fine with it like it is. But he's saying to me, she could be suffering, right? Um, yeah. And I don't want to let the opportunity pass to take care of it, because I had another one with my other sister, and I never talked to her again. And she's dead, so I can't take care of it. No. Um, so on one level, the Dharma helped me to not go into a spinning dysfunction, around things. And I really have a peace. He says, yeah, you had peace, but she's not. She's not. I think that's the message I'm getting. I just keep shining the light of Prajna on it. And before that, we would vacation together every year. I was her closest sister. So we have to. He says that when maybe you're not able to tolerate or handle some things right now, that's okay. But as you keep growing and you keep developing, you will develop the capacity to go back and to fix those things, to handle those things in a proper way. You will, and if you do it and you truly enter the state, then the power will be present to rectify things that you couldn't fix for 10 or 15 or 20 years. Just enter the state. Really, honestly enter. Okay. Could somebody, any other comment before we close? Hey, somebody want to close for me? I love seeing every face that's here. What I would love even more is that we handle our business. We take care of our problems and we fix the things that need to be fixed. Yeah.
Let the light of Kuan Yin's wisdom shine. Let the fire of Kuan Yin's compassion burn. And may her mind protect all lives and save the ones who wander. May all of the merit from our collected listening here today be dedicated to all of our families, our friends, our loved ones, and to all beings everywhere. May they come to know the truth of the Buddha Dharma, and may they be free from all forms of suffering.